hope you didn't rush too much, Polly. Take a breath, have a cup of tea. Can I go? Good to go. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is a meeting of Frome Town Council's Operations and Assets Committee. I'm Anne Hills, and I'll be chairing this evening's meeting. Just to remind everyone, we've got people online and here in the room. For those in the room, a little housekeeping. The emergency exit is in the rear corner, or the side corner, I suppose, at the moment. And the assembly point is on the far side of the car park. Toilets are at the end of the corridor on the right, and there's an accessible toilet to the right of the lift. Help yourself to a cup of tea. Well done, on cue, Polly. Tonight, Paul Clark, Sarah, Becca and Laura will manage the minutes, the question board, participant settings, and the IT generally. And Rachel. The meeting will be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel. For those councillors attending via Zoom, please use the yellow hand, and for everyone else, please ask questions through the Q&A board. First on the agenda is apologies for absence. Paul, have any been received?
We've had apologies from Andy Jones.
So I will propose that we accept that apology, and that is unanimous. Oh, who seconds it? Polly seconds it. So the next item is any declarations of interest. None indicated. Always, if something comes up that hadn't been mentioned at the start of the meeting, you're always welcome to mention your interest at that time. So next is the minutes from our last meeting, which was on the 23rd of July. And we have a point from Fiona.
Just to ask a question. So first of all, apologies for not sending apologies. I wasn't here last time. I was really not very well. And I thought I was going to hopefully be able to come, and then I wasn't. So apologies for not sending apologies. I wasn't here, so I just want to sort of clarify the decision around the toilets, because it has, got a slight bit of attention. So why was it agreed to not explore quotes for refurbishment of existing toilet block? And then also, can I just sort of reconfirm that the decision was to include a conversation around refurbishment and repurposing? So both of those two things, refurbishment and, or repurposing, and what we could do with the toilet block, looking at all options in engagement that we will be doing this autumn. And that was definitely agreed. But yeah, so yes.
My memory of that conversation is we had a discussion about what we would do immediately, what we would do in due course. And looking at the recommendations, we decided that there wasn't any point in exploring quotes for refurbishment of the existing toilet block yet, because the first thing we wanted to do was engage with the community to see what's the preferred course of action. Refurbishment, repurposing, but absolutely refurbishment is there in the options.
Or a mixture of both of them. So it could be that it's, refurbishing a couple of cubicles, or there could be some sort of other hybrid option as well.
Yes, absolutely. And
okay.
I remember I said that. Could we look at maybe keeping certainly the changing places, the disabled toilet, and maybe one more cubicle, or do we change it to urinals, or
do all of them, or yeah. Okay. Just that's good to clarify. So thank you.
Any other comments or amendments to the minutes? So other than that clarification, do we vote that those are a true record of the meeting? Does someone want to propose that? So Mark's proposing, Steve seconding. Um, as a point of clarification, you can still vote that they are a true record of the meeting, even if you weren't actually present. So if you'd viewed it online or if you'd read the minutes and had a discussion, but it's fine. Yep.
So could you just hold your hands up again if you're agreeing to a proposed minutes? Polly, is that up? Yep, great. So that's 3-4. So that's majority with Philip and Fiona abstaining.
Because they weren't there. Excellent. Right, so agenda item 2 is questions and comments from the public and councillors. I don't know that we've had any prior warning of any questions. No. Have we got any members of the public online? One member of the public in the room. I was just making sure there's nobody not currently. Any questions from member of the public in the room? Sorry to put you on the spot. Councillors, do any councillors have any questions on items that aren't going to come up on the agenda anyway? But they have not indicated, they've not raised their hands or anything to ask a question. 3. Fantastic. So next agenda, we're going to be out of here in record time. Next item on the agenda, our financial position at the end of July. So over to Sarah.
Thanks very much. While Laura's getting the PowerPoint up, I will introduce Claire. Claire Riley-Davis has joined us to take over part of Hannah's role for her maternity leave. Claire, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah, I'm Claire Riley-Davis. I started only on the 1st of September, so it's only my 3rd week so far, but I'm enjoying it. It's a very different, I used to work for a medical supplies company, so this is, being in council is very, very different, but I'm enjoying the change and learning new things, so yes, nice to meet you all.
Thanks, Claire. Okay, so this is a finance report to the end of July. It's just a third of the way through the year. All the work programmes are progressing well, and ultimately the finances are stable and resilient. We are forecasting earlier this year than usual, and at the moment the estimated surplus at year end is approximately 100,000, but I would restate we are only 1/3 of the way through the year. The bulk of the savings so far have come from delayed recruitment, so new posts starting later than budgeted. And there are a couple of surplus spends from devolved services and assets that we're not expecting to cost as much as we had budgeted for, but that's just a small amount. The other budget variances come from tenant income. So we have one longer term tenant who's here for another year. We have an open spaces underspend, which I will explain later. Market operations have been commissioned to the Frome Independent, and we therefore expect to save up circa 20,000 on that, depending on any other costs. There were some overspends in the year, and yard maintenance is one of them due to a break-in at the Rangers Yard. Professional fees, we expect to incur professional fees from a CIPFA, a qualified accountant. That's a Chartered Institute of Public Finances accountant, and they are going to hopefully oversee our work a couple of days a month till the end of March. We also have the new leader allowance, which was agreed at a council meeting earlier in the year. But all in all, we're still expecting a surplus. We do have to report a duplicate payment to a supplier of 60,000. It took place between March and May this year. We have been repaid 75% of that from the supplier, and they hope to pay the last 15,000 by the end of the week. Immediately on discovering the overpayment, we involved the SIPFA accountant. We had an internal investigation. We instigated extra controls. So we now look at instead of 4 checks throughout the procurement process, we're doing 6 checks. It has slowed our process a bit, but I think everyone agrees they're really appreciating the stronger controls. We are requesting councillor approval of disposal of assets, and this time we're just listing the items stolen from the Ranger Yard, so that list has already been circulated. Those items have been replaced. So, as I said at the beginning, a third of the way through the year, work programme's progressing well, and our finances are stable and resilient, and also flexible for future opportunities, we hope. Are there any questions?
I'm going to ask. I'm not really a question. It's just a comment about the overspend. I listen to a podcast that's called Cautionary Tales, and it's all about when things go wrong. And in order for something to go wrong, it's normally not one thing that causes something to go wrong. It's he describes it as several slices of Swiss cheese, and all of the holes need to line up in order for something to go wrong. And I think this overpayment has highlighted how busy you are, Sarah. It also came at a time when Hannah was suffering quite a lot from morning sickness. And also we had a replacement, a temporary replacement, who was a bit overwhelmed with the task, I think. So all sorts of things lined up in order for something to go wrong. But it has highlighted the fact that you are overworked, Sarah, I think, and also the fact that we have tightened up our controls. And I think we should commend the finance team that those changes were put in place immediately, and we're probably in a much stronger place
Indeed, yeah.
now.
Absolutely.
Philip.
Hi. Just on that point, and I agree, concur with the chair. But I'm not an accountant. I don't do money, as they say. You said that it was identified by a council review, and there were 4 stages. Now there are 6 stages, which adds a little bit more. Is there not a way within the accounting system that would automatically flag up if the same invoice comes up a second time for payment, that it sort of red flags it?
There is. That was one of the issues in this process. 2 separate pieces of paper were entered for the payment. One was a sales order and one was a sales invoice. They both had different numbers. The system would recognise a duplicate invoice number.
Just on that, I think also it was also in the list, also new accounting software. I think also, as you sort of said, there's sort of adjusting to that as well. And I just want to echo what Anne said, that I think that for me, it's all about like how we like respond to things like that. And you've been completely transparent about it. We've, done as much as we could to rectify it straight away. And then we've looked at how we make sure this doesn't happen again. And that's brilliant as far as I'm concerned. And also there was one little slice of cheese that didn't fail, which was Andy Jones. Yes. So Councillor Andy Jones, we will say, that was the thing that did the last bit, which is the last stage, which is what, it's there for, right? It's what it is there for. I just want to say, moving on, again, I feel like we spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out how we present some of this stuff sort of in a way that sort of makes sense and is easy to understand for sort of councillors and the public. And I just want to say I really appreciate the table showing estimated over or underspends. It's really clear. It's really easy to kind of go through. I feel like that's really helpful. I don't know if that's the first time we've had it in that way, but it looks really good, and it feels like I could kind of quickly look down and be like, okay, understood. So thank you.
Great, thanks.
Rob, I'm here. Hello.
You got me. You got me.
Exercising that leg.
Brilliant. Didn't know I could throw my voice, did you? On the stuff that was stolen, have we upped the security? What was it? It was stolen from the yard, wasn't it? Up at Victoria Park, is that right? Yeah.
Yes, we did quite a thorough review of security. We have upgraded all the locks on all the external containers. We've changed the doors. The police came round and did a review. We basically followed everything they said. We've done new doors into the ranger base. There's new alarms going in that not only detect, obviously all the alarms would detect, but they communicate externally and they can send alerts. We've got new CCTV. There's a lot happening. Maybe don't say it all.
No, exactly. No, yeah. A lot is doing it.
Yeah.
Sarah?
Yes.
I know one of the recommendations the last time we were audited was that we looked at, is it all payments over £100, or has it now gone back to £500?
That we publish all payments over 100. So all payments over 100 are published on the website, and we only circulate at council meetings those over 500 because councillors found the previous list of 16 pages understandably too much.
Well,
It's all there if anyone wants it.
that was going to be my comment, and maybe from an accounting point of view, because I too am not an accountant, but there's something about not seeing the wood for the trees, and if it's too detailed, you can't take a step back
Yeah.
and have a look.
But as the internal auditor did recommend, the stipulation is 100 in regulations, so we can't get away from that. So it's good that we do publish it on the website, but that we reduce the number of pages circulated to councillors.
So when Andy Jones and another, is it another?
It's always two.
When they do look through all of those payments, how do they see the wood for the trees?
They don't look at every single payment. They spot check, big ones and small ones, and yeah.
So how did Andy spot the double payment?
Okay. There was, due to delayed work in the accounts, we ended up for the first time giving the councillors some of last year's payments and some of this year's, and that's the key reason he noticed, because this payment appeared in both last year's accounts and in this year's accounts. Interestingly, if we hadn't been delayed and he'd only seen one.
So that might be an interesting thing to do, to see, because when I get my bank statement and I look at my bank statement, sometimes it's got a few from last month and a few from this month, and it looks like there's a double payment, but one was from the tail end of last month, and then this bank statement has also got this month's payment for whatever, council tax or something. So how do you deal with payments that might span the year end? And so you might have, one that was at the end of the last financial year, and another one at the beginning of this financial year. Is there any sort of crossover when you look at the year-end accounts?
Well, if all the procedures are followed, you'd be looking at the duplicate invoice number scenario. So you wouldn't look at an overlap between the years. You would look at the numbers of the paperwork, who'd approved the paperwork, who the budget holder is, who's the issuer of the purchase order, who entered the bill, who approved the payment. We've now got two people approving payments. So I'm not sure about, no, I understand what you mean between the overlap between the periods.
If I know it will never happen again, but should exactly the same Swiss cheese slices line up again, how do we know that we would spot it a second time? We've just always got to have Andy Jones there.
Can I speak? Because I think that, so we've had the external auditor report, which I've sort of read, and I think that, like Andy Jones is, we talk, the very thin slice of cheese at the end. I don't think I think it's great that he spotted it, and we're not relying on him generally. I think that we've put in place the systems so that it doesn't happen again. Also, one of the things that Sarah did as soon as we did discover it, was do a proper check to make sure it hadn't happened on anything else, and it hadn't. I think we could get a bit hung up on this exact scenario happening again. I don't think it is going to, particularly with all the changes made. I think it's very unlikely that it happened I think there was I think there was a lot of contributing factors that all kind of came together at the same time, and those holes in the cheese. And I think that and I think the recommendations. I mean, I've read the recommendations, and I feel like they're really, like they're brilliant, and I know they're being acted on and put in place. So I think it's useful to have that. It's just, I think what Andy does, and he does it on behalf of the councillors, is to just kind of, do a bit of a sort of a check, just to kind of, it's the last line of, I don't know, ask questions, etc. But I don't think we're not relying on that, is what I'm trying to say.
However, Andy did spot it, and I'd really encourage councillors who are interested in this area to engage and not to have to rely on primarily Anne and Andy most of the time just to do this. Sharing that out is great because it shares the load, but it also enables you as councillors to understand more of the detail of where things are being spent. And at the end of the day, it is your responsibility. So I'd encourage anyone to get involved in the money side of things. Anne, can I ask just one question?
Of course, yep.
Sarah, there's a forecast overspend on legal stuff at this relatively early stage in the year. And looking through the payments over 500, it sort of illustrates why. And I understand why we have had to spend a lot already on legal fees, because it's sort of acquisitions, not least. It's a point really just to make sure that we have enough in next year's budget to cover these things. We upped it, I think, this financial year, but I think we're only ever going to be spending more money on legal fees. So we need to ensure next year.
It's a good point. Usually we have a surplus in legal fees, but actually this overspend is to do with the accountant's fees.
Okay.
So it's for
so
the
accountant's fees.
Yes,
in
I've budgeted now for the extra accountant fees.
Brilliant. So the general point is really important. Those kind of quote professional fees are sufficient because we're getting more complex.
Indeed.
And I'm going to ask about the cost of a by-election. I seem to remember that when we are predicting our normal election cycle, that we've got some money set aside for that.
Yes, in an earmarked reserve.
An earmarked reserve for our normal election. So a by-election is
extra.
Over and above that. Would it make sense for us to add some money into that earmarked reserve just in case in the next administration? Then there's a by-election. Otherwise, it's quite a lot of money to just find down the back of the sofa, and I know you're very good at that, but it might make sense just to have the money there.
Okay.
So I think, Sarah, what we do at the moment, every year we put some in the election earmark reserve. So in 4 years' time or 5 years' time in this situation, there's enough to pay for it. So what you're suggesting is every year, instead of 3,000 or 4,000, we put 4,000 or 5,000 in. I think it's a good idea.
Also, because the cost of elections is going up because of the amount of postal votes, and actually Market Ward is a medium-sized ward. There are bigger wards that would have cost more, that will cost more. So,
and am I right in thinking that in the last year of our administration, if one of our councillors decides they've had enough and resigns, we wouldn't need to call a by-election in the last year? Is that right?
I don't know. There's definitely a cut-off. I've got 6 months in my mind, but it may be a year. I'm not sure. I can clarify that.
Okay.
I'm not positive. But certainly towards the end of administration, at some point, there's no need to call an election because the formal election is coming up soon.
Fine. Any more questions or comments on the finance stuff? Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks.
Very good.
Yes.
Oh, yes, we need to vote. So our recommendation, can we take them in a block? Yeah. We don't have to vote on whether we take them in a block. Who's proposing? Fiona. Who's seconding? Philip.
That's unanimous.
Thank you. Next up, we have to decide whether to purchase a compact tractor to help manage the open spaces. Over to Rob.
Thank you very much, Anne.
Lots
Yeah.
of lovely pictures of tractors.
So I know you, I know you've all read the report. I will dwell on a couple of points around this, and I'll go as fast as I can through the other stuff. So just to recap, the reason for looking at increasing capacity is obviously because we've taken on the open spaces. We did a lot of due diligence on this as a council. We knew that we wanted to do it. We knew that it would take extra capacity. So what we've taken on is the devolved sites from Somerset, the Adderwell site, and the community woodland. So all of those sites are there. I think we're all very pleased to have taken on those sites. It gives us a presence right across town, and there's still some areas where we maybe don't have a strong presence, but it's made our reach much greater. Obviously, though, that comes at a capacity challenge, and we knew that and we planned for it. That's Adderwell, and that's the community woodland. The land's gone up by 50% if you include Adderwell and the community woodland, and they're obviously spread all around town. So it's not just one big site. So that adds time and complexity to managing them. This is all just the context, and I know you know most of this already. Other things we've done already to this point to manage capacities, we've increased the size of the team. So Laura's with us. She's been with us nearly a year. She's a really effective member of the team. It's lovely to have her with us. We have the depot, which has made a huge difference to our ability to upscale and manage things when there's a lot of complexity. That's been an absolutely vital part of the jigsaw. We've also upgraded the Ranger base, so that is now fit for purpose. I really don't think it was really before, and it is now, and we've got capacity there. And lastly, just to mention, we've bought our second Grillo, and so we've now got 2 of these ride-on mowers that allow us to cut the grass. So a lot of work's been done already on capacity. In terms of what we planned for at the start of the year, we planned to get 2 members of staff, one of whom would be recruited halfway through the year. We obviously haven't recruited either of those 2 members of staff. We did get the ride-on mower and the extra vehicle, which I might mention a bit more later, that's not been bought either. So if you put it all together, we've bought the Grillo, and in total, there's so far £97,000 that we haven't spent from the original devolution budget that we had planned to spend in order to cope with that extra capacity. So that, if you like, is in the background as the potential pot that could be called on for increasing capacity. So there's 2 work streams, and I want to dwell on one of them, the hedging, but just to mention the grass, that's we've gone up from 22 to 32 hectares. But so what is 10 hectares? It's about 14 football pitches. So there's about 14 football pitches of extra grass that we're cutting. So that's just to give a sort of sense of scale. And that's obviously not just in one block, it's in many blocks. But what I want to dwell on here tonight is the extra hedgerow network. We've plotted it here, we've calculated it. The yellow is the existing. Oh, this is where I pressed the button too many times. Anyway, the yellow is the existing. The red we manage by contractors in the Showfield at the moment. There's another site just off the map in Birchhill that we manage by contractors. And the blue is the new. So by taking on these 57 sites, we've taken on the blue hedges. In terms of meterage, which is really the way to look at it, the existing, we've got the meterage at the top there. So we've taken on the blue is an extra 1,600 metres of hedge. If we didn't get a tractor, we've estimated the time it would take to manage that would go up from 490 at the moment to 930 hours. So it's going to go up a lot. I'm going to just go through that a little bit more in a second, but I also just wanted to, if you'll forgive me to just dwell on this for a second, just wanted to talk about what is this project of managing the hedges. It's very easy for me to say that to you. It probably doesn't really come to life if I say that. So with the extra land, we've now got 5.9 kilometers, basically 6 kilometers of hedge. So if you were to imagine it, that'd be like going from here down the high street, up the other side, through Froome Fields, out to Jay's Kitchen, through Old Field, turn left up to Beckington, all the way to Beckington, through Beckington and out the other side and halfway to Road. That's the hedge that we now have to manage. You have to cut it at the moment by hand, and that's one of the taller hedges, but nonetheless you have to use a machine, a hedge cutter that vibrates a lot. You've got to do this sweeping motion all the way from the bottom to the top, and you've got to do that again and again and again. You've got to do that all the way from here to Beckington and halfway through. Then you've got to turn round, and you've got to do the other side. You've then got to turn round and do half of the top, and then you've got to turn around and do the other top. At the moment, the amount of exposure to hand-arm vibration, we feel it is within the legal limits. It's pushing it. So we feel that doubling that is just not an option. So that's really the context of, I just wanted to spend a bit of time talking about the scale of that work. It is our biggest single task, and it's easy not to understand the sort of full complexity. So then turning to what would be the non-manual solution, it's obviously involving a flail. And just to explain the tractor was sort of defined by the flail. We wanted a compact tractor, one that would have access even in small spaces and wouldn't do a lot of damage to the ground. So we wanted a compact tractor. Here are the different flail options. We wanted one with a big reach. So that's the middle one there. We didn't want the smaller one, which only has the 3.7 meter reach. Where this is coming to is what we needed was a 2,000 kilogram tractor. So that kind of is the brief, if you like, for what we needed. We needed one that was heavy enough to allow us to reach the tall hedges. So then the question is which tractor? We've had a look at several, and the one we think is the right one is a Kubota. This is basically the biggest compact tractor you can get. It's the same footprint as a smaller compact tractor, but it's got a more powerful 62 horsepower engine, and it's got the brands of Kubota, which is a very reliable brand. So we feel that's the right tractor. We've been to see it. We thought you might like to see it. It hasn't got on general release yet, but we thought you'd just like to see something of what it is. Don't even bother. There it is. Just wanted to show you so that you get a sense of it. We went to see that just the other day.
And it's a very nice colour.
This, no, it comes in one colour. It's like Henry T. Ford's. So any colour you like, as long as it's black. So this is, I just will dwell slightly on this because this is where the crunch is in terms of the business justification. So at the moment, as we've said, in terms of the hours, if we were to do it by hand, it's 490 hours. If we don't do anything, it will go up to 930 hours. If we get a tractor, it'll go down to the hand time, will go down to 259. So at the moment, the needle's in the orange. We just don't think it's viable without a tractor. If we get the tractor, it goes down to 250, the needle comes down. So there's two arguments for this. One is the welfare. And I just don't think we can ask our rangers to cut double the length of hedge with the existing manpower, or even with one or even two extra rangers. The efficiency argument, that's the welfare argument. The efficiency argument is in the other numbers. So at the moment, if we do nothing, it will take 930 hours. If we get the tractor, there'll be some tractor time. There'll be some that we still have to cut by hand. But if you add it all together, it'll be the new hedge all the hedge network with a tractor included will be about the same amount of time as the existing one. We won't be spending more time on hedges. The amount of manual time goes down. And compared to no tractor, we gain 400 hours of time. It's about a fifth of a ranger just on that one task alone. So that's really the reason for suggesting that there's a very strong business case for it. Finances, there are other attachments which allow us to do all sorts of extra tasks. I suppose, well, they're all going to massively help the range of work. I'll just point out the second one down, the topper. That's going to allow us to cut the rough grasses in, especially Adderwell, but also the community woodland, Dippy, the Showfield. We currently ask a contractor to cut that grass. He sometimes is there, he sometimes isn't there. We don't have control. It costs us lots of money. So that topper is going to allow us to really manage the sites in a much better way. But when you manage as much land as we do, asking everything to be done by hand, there's a moment where that's just not, it just doesn't make sense anymore. And I think the front loader, allowing us to dig soil, sand, scalpings, mulch, everything, is just going to be a huge benefit. Being able to move things by the trailer, the front forks in the depot will allow us to take deliveries on pallets and move them around the depot. And the excavator will allow us to dig holes for if we're planting large trees. Also, if you're digging, if you've got a fence post which has been concreted in the ground and 1 meter down there's a lump of concrete, that is really hard by hand, really hard. This will massively improve our ability to do those tasks. So there's the hedging, but there's also a lot more. Just to reassure you, there's a lot of safety considerations in running a tractor. So the operators that would use the tractor would go on Lantra qualified training. Not everybody would do the hedge cutting. In fact, we'd probably limit that to 2 or 3 people to do the hedge cutting. So there'd be Lantra course for those using the tractor and another Lantra course for those doing the hedging. We've already worked out who could do that for us. They'll come onto site and they'll do that with us using our own tractor. So it'll be really tailor-made training. So then this is the drawing to the end then, the actual money side of it. We've got the cost of the tractor, the cost of the flail, the other attachments. Now, the bunded diesel is to allow us to use the agricultural diesel, what's called red diesel. The duty on that is much, much less than what you would pay if you go onto the forecourt. It's called red diesel because it's got a red dye. You can't use it in your own vehicle. I mean, you can use it in your own vehicle, but it'll be clear that you're using it, and that's a criminal activity, so you can't use it. That's why it's got the red dye. Per litre, that's about 66p compared to 130, 135 at the moment. So it's about half. In other words, by switching to red diesel, we'll be able to cut the costs of the existing ride-on mowers, and that saving will allow us to run the tractor without basically any increase in our fuel costs. And all that will take is a bunded fuel store for £2,500, as well as the permissions to store it at the depot, which we're pretty much there on. So the only other thing to mention on the cost of ownership is £750 for an annual service. So there isn't going to be a huge cost of ownership, and the number of hours we do, it will do a lot of hours, but we think the tractor will go on for a very long time. So if you put it all together, as I said earlier, we had 97k in the devolution budget. We would save 2k at least on contractors, probably even more actually. So just on this year alone, getting the tractor would be a 20k saving if we didn't get the vehicle. But not only that, every other year, the thing about having a member of staff is that every year that is 45,000 for one, 90,000 for two. Every year, that's a saving that we don't have that person. What we're saying with this proposal is we would definitely not take 2 rangers. That would be not happening. In terms of the land we have now, obviously, if we take more land, we'd have to review that. But in terms of the devolution land, the case is definitely no to one of those. With the vehicle and with the other Ranger, we would like to, the approach we've taken is a precautionary approach. We don't want to spend the money unless we have to. That's why we think the tractor is the best option. We don't know what managing all these sites with a tractor really looks like. So we would like to say one of those to be under review, and obviously it would have to come back here if ever that was viewed as there's a business case. So not taking one of them off the table, but definitely taking one of the two off the table. I will just mention the vehicle. The vehicle was there specifically if we took on another member of staff, we would definitely need a vehicle. I have to say, I think we're in the zone of possibly needing one more vehicle for the watering and the mulching, the watering of all the plants. There's more and more and more planters all the time. There's more and more trees that need, in the first 3 years, being cared for. The amount of watering we're doing is going up and up and up. I do think we probably need one more vehicle for watering. That's not in the proposal tonight. I just wanted to mention that. But we think that could be not a Bradshaw, which costs 33,000, but a second-hand small utility vehicle for maybe 12,000. But that would be something we'd come back to. So a saving on this year and a saving on every other future year. And I think, other than just summarising that, that's the end. So cost saving, welfare, the manual input halves instead of doubles. Efficiency, we gain a fifth of a person just on the hedges, but we gain efficiency on all the other tasks. Capability, cutting, digging, loading, transporting. Fiona, sorry, that's the end.
Sorry, I was getting, so it was directly related to what we talked about. So a few different things. So I think I understand the sort of the future cost savings. And I mean, first of all, you know how to make a case for, a bit of equipment. The paper is incredibly thorough, really covers it all, incredibly well costed. So just say thank you on that. Really good. What I did want to mention though is, I understand the ongoing cost, but I think I'm slightly aware that we're buying a lot of equipment all at the same time.
Sure.
There is a chance in 10, 15 years time, all of this equipment goes at the same time. So
Sure.
One of the things I've been talking with Paul a bit about is increasing the amount of sinking funds and stuff that we're doing.
Yep.
So I think that if we are getting, equipment, I think we do maybe need to start factoring in sort of creating pots for replacing,
Yeah.
particularly because we're now buying a lot in quite a short period of time.
Sure.
And again, as we have more and more equipment, as we grow as a council, I feel a bit like we do need to err on the side of caution. So maybe we do need to start looking at factoring in longer, replacement costs from when we buy them,
Okay.
and keeping that factored in. Then the other thing to mention was I bumped into, because the street sweeper, so every time I see it, I get very excited, obviously seeing it around town, I think it's great. But Mike was away on holiday, and so Mark was doing it, Cowboy Hat Mark was doing it. And he was obviously trying, but he's not trained and hasn't got the knack. So I think there is also with this, I think you're right that not every ranger needs to be trained in it, but we do also need to make sure that there's enough rangers trained and who are comfortable using it and
Yep.
who have kind of learned how to do it.
Yep.
So that if
Yep.
anyone is off sick or on holiday,
Yep.
it can all be covered.
Very good. Both very good. Can I come back on both of those
Yeah.
very briefly? But both really good points. Just on the sinking fund, I mean, obviously that is very good business sense to do that. I would just say that with the Hiluxes, I mean, it's slightly different with the Arb truck because it's a complicated vehicle, but the amount of use they get compared to how reliable those vehicles are, I can see them going on for 20 years. Which isn't to say a sinking fund isn't a good idea, but I really think those two, the transit, the e-transit, again, I mean, thanks to this council investing in the Ranger team, which helps with our capability, it also helps with morale. That was an almost new vehicle. And again, the number of miles that does, it's invaluable. But the number of miles it does, again, I can't see that needing replacing for a very long time, 20 years, I would say. So not to say sinking fund isn't relevant. On the question of people using the equipment, absolutely. I think we'll do a thorough risk assessment. And on that risk assessment, I think with the hedge flailing, you'll need to do a certain number of hours in order to be continued to be seen as a competent user. But we do want 2, and I would suggest probably 3 competent users for exactly the reason you said. So we'll train up 3 people on the hedging. We'll train up probably most of the rangers on the use of a tractor for all the reasons that you say. So yeah, good points.
I think it's also really good that we're investing in the machinery because, my experience is sort of allotments, Broadway Community Garden, is also, this is the stuff that community groups can't do as well. So I think
Absolutely.
where we're looking at sort of smaller sites, communities might be able to sort of take on some management. No one's ever going to be able to cut, you can't cut a hedge, you can't
Yep.
dig a hole, you can't do groundwork. So I think us sort of investing in that, to me, makes sense from that angle as well, that if we can get sort of community support on the planting and that kind of stuff, but let's get all the machinery. So also, I'm sure it's been mentioned to you, but Alex Silk, the manager at Badgers Hill, mentioned that they're struggling to get their hedges cut. And so, I mean, I'll bring it up another time, but it's stuff like that, that if we have the machinery,
Sure.
us doing, it's very
Our
helpful.
ability to help others is increased.
Yeah, is increased.
Others don't have that. Yep.
But no, I just think it's, I think it all makes sense. And I think you're right to kind of take it one step at a time. And if you like kind of
Yep.
see how it settles in. Because also we haven't managed all these sites through the winter either. So,
Exactly.
well, autumn, winter and spring. So there's also what this all looks like.
Yep.
Rob, I know Mark's going to have a question, but I've got a question for you.
Yep.
Presumably all of this equipment is going to be stored at the highways depot?
That's correct.
And what is security like at the highways depot?
Very good question. Yes, it's high in the sense of there's a lot of users there already. It's a very utilitarian space. It's not out of the way. It's very, very clear if you're in there. There's a lock gate at the front. There's CCTV. We don't have CCTV, but there is CCTV of the area. Somerset use it for their road network. So they're in and out in the middle of the night sometimes. So there's a lot of people using that site. It's not just us. We've upgraded security. So there's now a door. The pedestrian door has been upgraded to the spec that the police gave us. So the door's very good. And we've now got alarms, contact alarms on, there's alarms there. And that's very, thank you, Mark. The actual doors themselves have been upgraded to be roller shutter doors, so it's secure. It's definitely secure.
And securing the red diesel?
It would be. Yeah, it's okay. So the red diesel is going to be an abundant fuel store. So what that means is there's a fuel store, and then there's another layer completely around that, so there's air between them. So if you get a leak, it doesn't go anywhere. It's kept within the fuel tank. So there's two skins. That's point number one. Point number two: the regs are you've got to be more than 1.8 meters away. Point three is it isn't. I mean, it is flammable, but it isn't petrol. It's diesel. It's you'd struggle to do anything with it. But it has to be treated very seriously. But that's where the bunded fuel tank comes in. There'd obviously be fire buckets nearby. And so it would be done on a concrete base. It would be done according to the regs. It would be locked, so you wouldn't have access. Could you force access? Well, yes, you could, but then, you could force access to anything. I think, there's Somerset have...
People ideas as well. All this on a public meeting.
Sorry? Yeah, true.
Yeah,
Yes.
we've had a look at, there's already been an area which has been identified, which was previously used for this, wasn't there? So that's been covered.
Yes. Thank you, Mark. That was a bit more succinct.
Taking you back to the topper,
Yes.
and on sites such as Rodham Meadow where we might be using it.
Yes.
So that tops it.
Yes.
Important, I think, from memory to enhance the quality of the sword is to reduce the nutrient level by removing the cuttings. Is that part of the equation?
So you're absolutely right. If you want to improve the biodiversity value of grassland, you want to, contrary to what it might be intuitive, you absolutely do want to reduce the fertility over time. So the best way to do that is to remove the arisings. The challenge with doing that is twofold. One, it's extra time, but B, what you do with them? What do you do with those arisings? And we've really struggled with that. Technically, we can do it, actually, because we could cut with the flail mower, and the type of topper that goes behind the tractor to cut the grass will mulch it really fine. And then we could go behind it with the Grillo that has the vacuum to suck it up. We could actually do that. The practical way we've been managing many of our sites isn't to do that because of the time taken, and there's no sacrifice site. The difference would probably be Adderwell, because that's really exceptional quality biodiversity, and there is space on site to be a sacrifice space. I've already walked the site with Friends of the River Frome, and we've identified the sacrifice space where we would do that. So we would do that where we can.
Fiona.
Crest. Sorry, do you want to say something?
Sorry, Mark.
A quick question. I haven't been out to the depot yet. Can we? Quick. Can we organise a councillor trip to the depot? I haven't been out there yet.
Yeah, 100%.
And
Great idea.
I'd really like to see it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I mean, you'll see a photo of it in a minute and a bit more than you saw in the previous one. But absolutely,
wait.
great idea.
Can't wait. Sorry.
Great idea.
Mark.
Well, I've had a very intensive guided tour of the depot, and I took one for the team, and yes, I can say that it's going very well. So we're talking about spending money here, but will we be saving money by saving the fees we pay to contractors at the moment? Do you see those contractors being done away with?
Yeah, thank you. Good question. Absolutely. We use a contractor to manage the hedges in 2 sites at the moment, the Sheffield and Birchall allotments. We won't need to do that. So that's a saving. We use a contractor to top the Sheffields and sometimes Rodden. We won't be paying those fees anymore. Also, the reason that we want a compact tractor and we want the reduced weight and different tyres, not agricultural tyres, is because at Birchill, the agricultural tractor that went down there has just rutted up the access track. That won't happen anymore.
Okay, that's good. And so presumably we'll also, if you get a backhoe, that'll save us having to go to Sydenham's all the time to borrow one of their machines?
Yeah, absolutely. It will cut down on that. There are that's a good question. It will help with all sorts of digging a hole type operations. What it won't do is if we are digging a long track and we want to remove a lot of topsoil in a linear line, the mini digger with its ability to swing round is the right tool for some jobs, but all the jobs where it's in one spot and you're digging a hole, of which there's quite a few, yes, we won't need to go to Sydenham's.
Final point. So you're going to train most of the rangers to operate the tractor.
Yes.
And a select few to operate the flail.
Yes.
As well.
Yes.
Do we know what the cost of the training are?
Yes, we do. It's 500. I think it's £500 for the tractor, or is it £500 for the tractor and the flail, and it's 300 for the tractor alone? I think that might be that, but please forgive me if I got those wrong. But we do have the figures. But I think it's £300 for those people just doing the tractor, and it's £500 for those doing the tractor and the flail. So it's going to be around £2,500–3,000, but that will be covered by our existing training budget, which hasn't been much used.
Lip.
Rob, hi. Just 2 things. One, having the flail now and the tractor,
Yeah.
does that put us in a very good position? Because as I understand it, most of hedging in counties, let's say Somerset,
Yep.
done by farmers anyway, so contracted out.
Yes.
Would that, if there's a shortage
Yep.
of people able to do
Yes.
hedging along the highways, does
Yes.
that give us an earning potential? That's
Oh, an earning potential. Okay, right. Yeah.
the first thing. And the second point was, presumably, you have a sort of a list of ideas of how you can use this compact tractor.
Yes.
But I'm guessing that over time, there will be other uses.
Sure.
You'll be able to put it,
Yep. Yep.
which will expand all sorts of things for you and the Rangers.
Sure. Yeah. So could we become a contractor ourselves? I'm sure there are commercial opportunities. It won't be in use all the time. No, it won't be in use all the time. However, what I would say is that the capacity that we have looked at, that we need, is looked at to manage the sites that we manage for community value. So it would dilute that. Not to say it couldn't be done, but I think it's quite a different business model, and it's not one that we currently are aiming to do. I mean, it can be looked at a later stage. Are there other things we can do with it? We think we've listed quite a few of them, because we do know the sort of things we do at the moment. But of course, having the power of a tractor, things like log splitting or whatever, you can do all sorts of things that aren't factored in yet. So yes, I'm sure there will be things.
Steve?
I guess I know it's under warranty. I read that.
Yes.
We insure all this machinery.
We will insure the machinery, yes. It will go onto our insurance.
Yeah, and the Grillo's insured. And all-
Sorry?
The Grillo, that's insured.
Grillo's insured, yeah. So yeah, it will come to us. There was a slight delay with our ability to insure our Grillo because it didn't come with the number plate. It took time to go. This tractor will come to us with a number plate. It will go onto our insurance straight away. And what was the first part of that? Oh, right. I'm sure there was something I was going to say, which was very important. I've forgotten.
Can I echo what Fiona said right at the beginning? I really liked the way you set out the report. I found it easy to read and understandable, and I like the inclusion of pictures.
Thank you. Thanks, Anne.
Any more for Rob on? Yeah, I've learnt about red diesel. Any more for Rob before the next item, which is also Rob?
Well, I think we have to vote.
Oh, we have to vote. Oh, Polly.
I was just going to say, if anyone dares ask a question, I can't believe how thorough that was and how impressive that was. And so, yeah, it's all there, guys. And it's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Polly.
So Polly, Mark's going to propose, Polly's going to second.
Thank you, guys. That is amazing. That is amazing. It's going to be great for the Ranger team and community benefit. Thank you.
Next agenda item is also Rob.
Thank you, guys. So, again, you've had the report. I have got some images. If you want me to stop, I'm not going to go on and on and on, but I do have some images. Personally, I do think this is a
experience with Victoria Park.
I'm not going to give you any history. I did say I nearly put a slide in on history, but I do think this is a good venue for explaining some of the work we do. Celebrating success, I think, is really important. So there are some pictures, but just tell me if I'm dwelling too long. But I won't go on and on. I promise. I'm going to show a map on the left-hand side that gradually shows all the dots where we will work in many more sites, but this just shows where these examples come from. Obviously, in the last 6 months, the sweeper has come online. I think it's made a great difference to how the town centre looks. It also has made a big difference to the weeds. It will take time to really get on top of the weeds, but we knew that. But I think it's really paying dividends. And there's all sorts of benefits. Like the other day, we wanted to move the bins by the boots, and there was a hell of a mess behind there. We just cleaned it up in seconds with the sweeper and then power washed it afterwards, leaving it spotless. So that's been great. Mike's doing great on that. Here's just one example of what Mike's done. He's completely replaced that bench, and he's like a carbon copy, except it's new, and he's done that all by himself. I could go on and on about Mike's work, but I'm just going to show you a few. You all know what Mike does, but he's such an asset, I think, to Freedom Town Council. So that's Mike's work. One thing we came across that wasn't on our radar was that the grouting, there was water getting in underneath the liner of the fountain. I don't want to reignite the whole "should we have a fountain" debate, but if we're going to have a fountain, you obviously want one that isn't degrading. We took the liner away during that amazing hot period, and we got SK Conservation to do all the grouting, and that's been fully repaired. So that's now up and running, and you can see all the lines have been redone. So it's looking tip-top now. You all know Henley Way, and that's how it was. The Rangers took on Fiona. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
As long as Rob doesn't mind.
I don't mind.
Yeah.
We'll turn the fountain off.
Yes, we do.
It's still within
Yes,
6 months.
it'll be on for another 4 weeks or so.
And then it's off.
Then it's off until March.
First, I just want to say I walk around the town centre a lot. I have noticed a real difference in the work that Mike has done, and I think the fountain looks brilliant as well.
Oh, nice.
But my question was about the Hennyway steps are being replaced. I think, I go down these all the time, and I think the decision was, I am surprised by how steep they are, I will be honest.
Okay.
And that track, I understand why it's,
Yep.
to get bikes down, but it does,
Sure.
I've seen sort of people really struggling to get stuff down.
Right.
And I guess I'm just sort of curious as to why they were made so steep. And also we said that we were leaving a space for the ramp if we did want to do a ramp at
Yes.
some point in the future. Capital costs, understand, not
Yes.
not the right thing to do it right now.
Yes.
Where would it go? I couldn't sort of see.
Okay, so why is it so steep? It's to do with the length of the risers. It's to do with the length of the step itself. If you don't have it in your natural gait, it becomes very dangerous. So that's a 32.4% angle. I take guidance on that. I mean, I certainly didn't say, can we have a steep one, please? But I mean, I agree that when you first look at it, but it is just a normal step. But I mean, there could have been an option halfway to have a long break. We didn't go with that option. But the actual steepness, I'm told, is standard. The thing that you push the bike up, we nearly didn't put that in, but there was a request that we did, and I do think it's good that you have that option. It is steep. I don't really know, I don't know what to say really. We could take it off, and so there's no way of putting it there.
No, I think it's worth keeping it. I guess sort of I've just seen it. I think these things are really difficult, and it's very easy to kind of like in hindsight or sort of, as you said, like you take advice and you don't know what something's going to look like, and then it comes. It's just, I was just curious as to why.
Sure.
But it's definitely better than me feeling my foot is going to go through it every time I go down the ramp. So
Well, something needed to be done. I mean, I've told the tale that before I came for the interview, I looked at that ramp and I thought, I hope that doesn't come up on my watch, but it did. And, it was 140,000 to replace Light for Light. It's such a shame that we didn't do it, but, we couldn't. Where would the ramp go? That's where it would go. It would go there, and then it would curl round here. It would basically do that. So you can do it. It's just you need 40 metres of suspended aerial walkway with all the footings to carry the weight. But the Rangers not only took that ramp away and put that path in, they've put 10 tonnes of soil in, and they've made a feature either side, and there's going to be more planting in the winter. So hopefully it's,
all of that area looks lovely. It
Yeah.
looks good.
St John's, everyone knows, well, I imagine many people know that we've taken on, with the community, managing it, an area of the Astor land next to St John's. And so we've worked with the community group to do sort of an initial reset to allow that to become a community growing area. Lots of volunteers. One of our corporate volunteering days was done there. Mark Scopes is managing the fencing with 15 people trying to help. Amazing. Well done. Well done, everybody. Broadway Community Gardens, there was an initial pond, and we've worked to make that a bit smaller and a bit safer. That's gone in, and we're just about to do the groundworks to enable the community to build a compost loo. That's imminent, I believe. Adderwell, we've taken on the lands, and we've started actively managing it. The footpath is now completely accessible, and we did an amazing volunteer day where we removed all the invasive Himalayan balsam. Thank you, Nick Dove, one of the councillors who came along to that. And it's been completely cleared from our side of the boundary. It will come again because it floats down, the seed floats down on the river. At least our part of the land was managed so it didn't float further down the river. Community woodlands. We've got to ground zero, and so the land's there to be managed, and we are imminently going to be doing work on that site. 27th of October, we will be seeding that site with Wildflower Meadows with a horse. Not the bitey horse, but it will be done manually using Wessex horses who do lots of wood extraction in Stourhead and other places, and it's going to be a lovely.
That's lovely.
It's going to be a lovely event. Yeah. Yes, and we're just going to have a meeting. I think it's Friday to plan all the publicity. So it hasn't hit the headlines, but absolutely, it will be a public event. That's that. So Mary Bailey, at the last one of these, you approved the management plan. We've already done more of the Wildflower Meadows. We've done a zip line. There's a service tap has been put in, very dull, but it actually allows us to do all the watering, to do all some of these improvements. So Mary Bailey's rocking and rolling. And of course, we are moving forwards with the skate park, which is such a huge project with massive community benefit. So watch this space. It's very exciting. So that's that. Victoria Park, there's all sorts happening in Victoria Park. We've refreshed the area that's twinned with Poland. It's had a complete makeover. That's looking really good. Ping pong tables going in near the cafe. Cafe will hold the bats and the balls. They're really excited about that. I think it's going to be really nice. We've already put these shade sails over Teletubbies. We might add one more, but they already look lovely and they'll be very much appreciated in summer. Of course, you all know about, more things to say. Mark Scopes has created a stumpery by the toilets, a disused area. That's been brought to life. It looks really nice. Quite a few memorial benches have gone in, which is really great. And that's a Japanese Acer, which is going to look stunning in later life, that Helen has organised and Tony helped plant with Critchell School.
You should define stumpery.
Stumpery. Let's define stumpery. Stumpery is a place where there's lots of stumps and lots of, but more than that, there's lots of ferns. It's an area. It's an area for dark places where there's not much light. It's quite hard to bring them to life. Not many things grow. But what you can do is you can put the stumps, which are very good for wildlife because they gradually degrade, and they're good for beetles and they're good for decaying mushrooms. But also the ferns in between gives it greenness, verdancy. So yeah, that's that, and at no cost. That was done at no cost. But then you also all know about this. That's the Norway maple. It was undoubtedly one of the first trees. Well, it was one of the original trees in the park, 1881, bit of history. And so that's 140 years old, much loved. It's very sadly, it had disease. One of the worst diseases you can get for structural integrity, right by the path, right by school, sadly had to come down. It came down, we planked it up, we've got all that wood in the depot, which you'll see in a minute, and that's going to make community woodland benches, which are going to be really, really lovely. And of course, also, we'll just show you this. Right, you see this lump here? That's going to be felled. This guy's felling it, and this guy's on the rope, and together they're working as a team, and they've got to hit here. Not bad. Thought I'd just throw that in. So what we ended up with is the bench being carved, that massive stump, and just to say, how do you get rid of a stump like that? Because we did. You get one of these. We're not going to buy one ourselves, don't worry. But what a beast that was, and that ground out the stump, and there we are. Anita came along and opened it, and every time I go up to the ranger base, there's families admiring and sitting and enjoying. So
It's incredible. It's so stunning, beautiful.
Graham Durnham, and he's based in the Marlborough area, and yeah, fantastic. Beautiful. Absolutely brilliant.
How long will that last, Rob?
Well, very good question. If you didn't do anything, it would rot. But we have covered it in wood preservative, non-toxic. No, it's a sort of it's an Osmo varnish, but it will last, and we will do it, recoat it every year. I don't know exactly, but I would say 15 years, I hope. So that was exciting. We talked about this in the financial update, but we've upgraded all our security at the Ranger base. The depot, that's how it looked. That's how it looks now. We've got the roller shutter doors in. The guys have painted the door. 2 of those doors don't open at all because we saved money by not replacing them, and they're painted black as well. And the guys have kitted it out inside. They've made these workshops. The van is charged. There's an EV charger there. It's all compliant, and it's not It's lovely to hear that you want to come along, because I was going to say it's not glamorous, but it is so functional, level, flat, good access, near the road, huge, dry, fabulous. That's the wood that we cut up. So that's going to make loads of community benches. So it was sad the tree came down, but hopefully it will bring life to lots of different spaces. Devolution land, we've covered that. Legal ownership is imminent, and that's the devolution land itself. We've already covered that. And lastly, we've got Helen's done her annual tree report, and over 1,000 trees went in last year. There were actually more trees that went in the year before, but that's because there was the hedging project around the Schofield Play area. But yeah. Good work on extending the canopy cover in Frome. And just as the last thing, this is this is Egford Park, this is the Tiny Forest now, and here's how it started as bare ground, and that's in the space of just a few years. It really has become a small woodland, and it's a brilliant citizen science project.
I did that.
Yay, thank you, Anne, thank you. And it's used by schools, it's used by the people that go to the park. There was nothing there before. It's an example, I think, of what Frome Town Council does to a site. That was just open ground. In fact, it was open ground with one football. I call it the Frome Town Council version of how a site is managed. It was one football post before, and now it's two. That's it. I think we're done. There you go.
Thank you, Rob. Fiona.
Can I just say I had a friend come visit me from London recently, and so I took her on what was probably the most detailed, possibly boring tour of Frome ever, because obviously I was telling her everything, and we walked a lot around sort of some of our open spaces, and obviously I go around them all the time, but there was something about sort of showing someone and just thinking how much there is in them to show. They are, you guys do an incredible job of managing them for biodiversity, for play, for for beauty, for social spaces, for all of that. And there's just so much. It just made me really proud, because I was just like, oh yeah, and we've done that, and we've got that and that's gone in. And I just think you guys, brilliant job. And I think that sort of shows a lot of it.
Thank you, Fiona.
Mark. I just want to give Mark a chance.
As lead councillor for open spaces, and I spend a lot of time with the Rangers, and it's obvious they're very proud of what they do and they love doing it. And it is our cliches, a window to it's the first thing that people see. I mean, we do a lot of work here on lots of different things which aren't always obvious, but this is very, very obvious. So I just want to place on record my thanks to Rob, and especially the team of Rangers I spend time with. I know they love doing it, they want to do more, and we give them the opportunity to do that.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Mark.
We've got one online, and then we'll go to Polly.
Hi. Adam Boyden's online, and he says, is there a plan to provide disabled access at Henley one day? A resident who can't use the steps due to their health asked him.
Thank you, Adam. And it was a very important consideration when we started looking at needing to replace the Henley Way ramp. We initially started looking at like-for-like replacement. When we realised that was looking like it was not going to be affordable, we worked with the Wessel Group, who did an access audit. People with various mobility challenges came along and reviewed the situation with us. Obviously, the steps aren't a ramp, but we've done other works to make the other side even more accessible. We've made some of the dips in the tarmac on the Welsh Mill side. We've done some work on those. There's plans to make the tables wheelchair friendly. And there is the option. Yeah, there is the option. The option of putting a ramp in is not closed. It will cost around £120,000. So I think it's fair to say there's no sign of that money right now, but the door's not closed, and there could be a community fundraising to find that money. There'd be no one more happy than I if we could get that ramp, but it's just a financial challenge. We've done whatever we can to make the other route accessible.
Polly.
Just two things, echoing what Mark and Fiona have said. There's a lot to be proud of and a lot to be really impressed by under your management. It's brilliant. There's a lot of fantastic things to look at, and I think that we feel really proud of it. I wanted to ask about tree planting. The devolved land,
Yeah.
I haven't looked to see whether this piece of land that I'm thinking of that I won't mention right
Right.
now is part of our devolved land, but I think it is that
Right.
we have acquired.
Yeah.
And somebody's planting trees on it and,
Right.
you know,
Right.
without permission.
Okay.
Which obviously isn't
Right.
isn't fantastic.
No.
But actually, is there a way of people going about that? It can, so if a member of the public wanted to make a space nicer, then now it isn't Somerset, now it's ours.
Absolutely, yes.
So they can come, they can apply.
So our plans, the journey as we see it is, number one, take them on, start the active management, do the grass in the summer, and then do the hedges and the tree work in the winter, and start to get a feel for it. Manage our capacity and just keep things on an even keel is the sort of initial plan. And then we will very much work with the communities team to outreach. What we don't want to do is parachute in solutions, so we want to work with local communities. But that obviously, when you've got so much land, you want to do it step by step. It will partly be guided by which community groups are really keen to do works on their land. But in terms of where we want to get to, yes, that's exactly what we want to do. We want to enable local communities to come up with ideas and make improvements that benefit the local people. So that's absolutely what we want to do. In terms of timelines, possibly not right now in terms of us getting involved, because we're just sort of keeping our head above water. But one thing that we are doing is working with Pocket Meadows to do a number of places on land, including the devolved land, where bulbs are going to be planted, and they'll just bring colour and life. And then there's going to be, like in Mary Bailey that I showed, where we did the wildflower meadow plants. That again can happen on devolution. So we're already enabling communities to do that where we can, and then we've sort of said from September 26, we'll really have our head above water and we'll start doing major projects, but we will work with the communities team. But if anyone wants to express an interest, we'd love to hear from them.
Yes, but I'm also kind of talking about tree bombing. This is happening.
Right.
So people, as in people,
Yeah.
like seeing as we have a target of how many trees we'd like to plant,
Yeah.
are we likely to take them up? I mean, I suppose we're only likely to take
Sure.
them up if they've been put there without permission,
Well-
if they're the wrong kind of tree.
I mean, it's obviously everybody loves trees, but actually people do like green spaces too, because they're very important for communities. So what we don't want to do is just see green space lost for trees. So we have management plans. And so in Mary Bailey, we're going to plant a few trees. We think Victoria Park, for instance, is pretty full. We don't actually want to see many more trees there. It's got a good canopy cover. Brunel Way, very open. We might want to see some trees. So it's case by case. I don't think what we want is people planting trees, and that's how new trees arrive. I think it's a managed process. Will we take them up? I'll talk to you afterwards about which site we're talking about and have a look.
Philip.
Two very quick points, Rob. The first one isn't really a question. It's something to be noted, perhaps a discussion for another time. I'm dealing with, at the moment on my ward, two situations of two housing estates where the management company is basically not doing their job. And all the good work that we've mentioned tonight, and you've shown us about the amazing rangers and your team and so on, you step then into another part of Frome, onto a housing estate, and you can see how badly maintained the open spaces are. And that's a growing issue. And as I say, there are two active ones I'm dealing with at the moment. And Edmund Park at the moment, they've been trying for years to get their own management company set up, and it's proving to be really, really difficult. The company that's dealing with the site really isn't doing very much. All that residents say is that nothing's done, and then if you complain, you get a threatening letter. So there's that issue there, that you sort of have this divide in certain parts of town, and that may grow because of the development that's proposed around town. The last point, just very quickly, I echo everything that's been said about your work and the Rangers and everything else. But one thing I'd like to be noted is that the Rangers actually are brilliant outward facing in interacting with the public and the volunteers. Everyone talks really, really highly about them all the time. They're great. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. That's appreciated.
Yeah. Cool.
I think it's reasonable to say that no one really likes the concept of management companies managing open spaces on new housing estates. What we've tried in the past, and sometimes succeeded, is work with the developer when historically Mendip District Council or Somerset Council have refused to adopt them, and we have done that. So for those of us with long memories, we took on the play area and a little bit of open space at New Road, which is just between the Asda Junction and Rodden. And that was run by a management company. And I think within weeks of them taking it on, we sort of were moaning at them, well, do you want it? Yeah, well, we'll have it then, kind of thing. What Jane and Steve and other people on the planning side try to do is to work with those developers to explore whether it might be appropriate for the Frome Town Council to take them on. Sometimes it might not be. Sometimes we think, whoa, that's too much. But the kind of a likelihood, if Selwood Garden Community goes ahead and is given permission, I know Jane and Steve have been in conversation with the developers about taking those open spaces on, or at least some of them, right from the very beginning, because then it's an extra burden on the council taxpayer. But at the moment, the people living on that housing estate are paying us council tax and the management company for something, and it's a really raw deal for the resident, and they get a poor quality service. So I think generally we are willing. Hopefully, I talk on behalf of councillors, but generally we're willing to at least explore where there is a management company that isn't functioning very well to step in. And I think we've got one, Rob, we've got one open space on Dragonfly.
Yep, Dragonfly goes.
Where that's kind of just going through at the moment.
Yep.
So it's a raw deal for residents to have a management company that doesn't function properly.
Just to come back very quickly. There is a situation now, Great Western Road, where trees have just been totally neglected. They are literally growing into the houses, into the gutters, and the residents have been told they can't touch them. And the management company have appointed somebody called an adoption manager. And their job, and I'm in touch with him, but he doesn't really answer his emails, and his job is primarily to get rid of those plots of land.
It would have been really nice for us, our offer years ago, to have those accepted, but it just wasn't possible.
I'm going to go to Mark.
Can I just go, it was on this, so is that, are you going on something new?
No, I'm going to talk about this.
Okay.
I mean, you're lucky tonight that you've got all the members of the planning committee on this committee. We're quite proactive with the new developments about going out to see them, and all of them say there's a site at Old Ford which could be developed into quite a large place, and of course the garden community. They all say, right, the benefit we're going to bring to Frome is we're going to give you all this as a nature park, and we're going to give that to Frome. And we always say to them, well, you're going to pay us to take it on, because I know that Rob's team is operating at capacity. Even with the mega tractor, it's going to be pushed to cover everything they do. So before we start promising to take these things on, we either want some sort of fee from them, and it goes back to Philip's thought about being a contractor. That's extra people, extra machinery. So we've got to be a bit careful before we say, yes, we'll have it, because it could be really onerous for years to come. And yeah.
I just chip in on that. I think the advantage of talking before the development is that you can talk about the money that might come our way, the cost of managing the land, and therefore a provision. The challenge of taking on, we have just taken on Dragonfly Close. We feel that's a really central piece of land where it's going to be surrounded by houses. It's quite a large open space. It's kind of strategic importance. But there's many spaces which we could take on because we have the ability, capacity, not capacity, we have the capability. But the challenge is just capacity, because we could do, but should we? We probably can't do. It's a capacity question.
A lot of the developers on some of these sites, we know, and we're working with them on other sites. So if anyone has got any issues with management companies on existing sites, can they let someone from the planning committee know? And we will discuss it at the planning committee, because the chances are we're already talking to some of these developers, and we can say, well, okay, well, you want us to talk about this. Before we do that, we need to have a chat about this. But if we don't know, we don't know. So, Philip, can you let us know about the ones that you know? And if anyone else knows of any other sites, then please, let me or Jane know, and we will discuss it at the planning meeting, and then we can talk to developers when they want to talk to us about other developments.
I discussed it with Jane just to make sure who owned that piece of land. That wasn't clear. But yeah,
The trouble is that they hand over to separate management companies, and they're often they're not employing locally. They're often like bussed in from wherever that management company's house. So that really is a problem, because it's not an asset for us locally at all. And if residents can get together and form their own management company, at least they are likely to employ local people to sort out the grounds or the even the houses. The thing I think about offering a piece of land as a developer, if, like in the case of Old Ford, I had to keep pressing them on, you see that bit of land there that you don't want to build houses on? Why is that? Presumably it's because it's not suitable, yes. So either it's, a high level of water, or it would take too much to level it out, or whatever it is. So, we've got to be really careful what we're actually being offered, because it really might be, harder work than we would have chosen.
Steve.
Let's come back on that, because you're absolutely right, Polly. Most of the companies that the developers use will go in twice a year, once in the spring, once in the autumn, cut it down and leave it. So, and we've got most of the planning committee here, so we see these lovely shots. The Oldford one is a case in point of this wonderful green open space grassland, which looks like an ideal sort of country park, basically. Yeah. The reality is that will be an overgrown field for bulk of the year with no one managing it. You won't be able to walk through it unless you create a path just by walking in the same stretch of grass all year long. And don't get me on attenuation ponds. And they're the same. They're just basically they become bits of wasteland because they're just not managed. And so that's where we, as the planning committee, which you've got 5 out of 6 of us here, need to actually understand. And we do push back on stuff that we know about, but it's the stuff we don't know about.
Fiona.
Agree with all the sort of points made, but I was just going to add, I think the argument here, though, really is that we get, what we've all said is that we get in really early on, and what you're saying, Rob, is that because I think at the end of the day we can kind of say no to taking this on, and then what happens is it's not really looked after, and then the community around it and the residents then sort of 10, 15 years later then kind of want us to take it on. I'm guessing that Brunel Way was once part of a new development, and that would have been a bit of land. You've mentioned Dragonfly Close, etc. And then there's no chance of money because it's so down the line. Whereas if we can get them agreed with a upfront or yearly or whatever it is, and also then we get the opportunity to before they've put crappy bits of play equipment that no one needs on, or done silly things with them, we could actually do them. But for me, there has to be some sort of remuneration. Developers have money.
That can be part of the section money.
Yeah, but we just have to.
That's what we did with SGC.
Fantastic. Right. Next agenda item. Starters and leavers, and safety matter, health and safety and safeguarding. Over to Laura.
Carefully does it. Nothing really to add, apart from just with regards to the safeguarding at the town hall. It is something we're actually going to do a bit of deeper work into at the moment, without going into specifics. Obviously, with the sort of the pulling back by some of the sort of Somerset offerings, we are seeing more complex issues presenting at the town hall. So we're going to do a bit of work around safety for staff and how we manage those interactions that come into the town hall as well. So just to give you a bit of a heads up on that, but nothing else to add.
Thank you. I'm going to jump in first. Yes, I think safeguarding in the town hall for staff members, councillors, anyone using the building. We have an open door policy, which I would argue we need to maintain, but the trouble with that is people will use the town hall as a place to vent their frustration, and the most difficult clients to deal with, I suppose, are the people that we can't help, and that's when they might vent their frustration on staff members. So it's making sure that we understand how to diffuse situations, and hopefully that we do have somewhere where we can seek help for people who are in crisis. But so we're going to be looking at all of our sort of lone working policies and safeguarding policies in the round, and do a bit of a deep dive on those policies, probably from now or in the new year from now. Philip?
May I bring up again the issue of DBS checks? It's something I have to say, be quite open about. When I first became a councillor, I was quite shocked that it was not a requirement. And then I later learned, for a councillor, I was later learned that it wasn't a requirement even for staff members, certainly staff members in certain areas. And that the answer I got a couple of times was, well, we don't deal with children. And of course, DBS is not children, it's any vulnerable person, adult, whatever. And also GDPR wasn't sort of working well. The signing in book was an example that you could see anybody's name, address, phone number, car registration, in my view. That's now been sorted. But the DBS issue still is something that concerns me, that we haven't really discussed it or addressed it. I know we had an issue here with a training day here with Bob Ashford. There was a couple, weren't there? And Bob's position wasn't to tell us what to do. It was to advise us what the situation was and then for us to go away and think about it. But nothing actually, as regard DBS, actually came of that. And so I think it's still an issue. I mean, on the grants committee, for example, we ask organisations to highlight their safeguarding policies because we want to be sure that they are complying, because obviously we're giving them money and so on. And yet I'm not sure that we are doing the same thing here, because we have lots and lots of meetings which are one-to-one, potentially one-to-one. You can't always drag another member of staff out to come and sit with you. Or there was the issue about, I remember that meeting about going into people's homes, that kind of thing. And I remember Tracy was doing a play, Purple Elephant thing on Brunel Way, and asked for somebody to come along and help for the day. And it was the children's play area or lost children's area, and they had to be DBS checked. And of course, loads of people said, "Oh, I can't do it because I'm not DBS checked." So it's I just raised that again as something that we need to consider.
Laura, to come back on that, then I'll go to Nick. I absolutely take your point, and I think it's one of those fine balance things. We did a big report on it a year or two ago, and after that work we did with Bob. With councillors, I find it tricky because by the time you become a councillor, you're elected. So if you did a DBS check at that point and it raises something, I suppose I don't know what we can do. I think that's a question probably for the monitoring officer. What would happen if you DBS checked a councillor and something came back that wasn't acceptable? They are useful. From a staffing point of view, we always carefully look at the job description and the job responsibilities. So like in our finance team, we standard DBS check our finance team because finance is also a safeguarding issue. So we generally do safeguarding checks for those. Any of our team, in our marketing team, if they're at events, particularly if they're going to be in sort of lead roles, we make sure that they are DBS checked to enable them to be at those events. Blanket DBSing the whole staff team, I think is a little bit too far. And in the same way, blanket DBSing councillors might be a step too far. Not all of you are going to go into houses. Not all of you are going to be in situations where you're on one-to-one, and I think that's a bigger conversation about your own safety and safeguarding, about being in situations where you are alone with somebody you don't know. And a DBS, I don't think is going to protect you in that capacity. So I'd just say from staffing point of view, we also do DBS checks on behalf of some of the other organisations like the Let's Talk. We DBS for those. The ESOL volunteers, so the English language tutors that work with the Welcome Hub, we make sure they're all enhanced DBS checked. There's a cost that goes along with this as well. An enhanced DBS check at the moment is about £55 cost to the organisation. So I think it's a wider conversation we could have, but I think it has its nuances, and there's sort of pros and cons for all of it.
I mean, there are councils that will insist that you are DBS'd. And
At principal authority level, yeah.
a couple of points you made there, Laura, is that we DBS the finance staff and we DBS, whatever. In a way, what we're saying is anyone can stand as a councillor, and yet they're not DBS'd.
I think that's it.
But it may. You think you're right.
That's
It
not
may be.
true.
It may be a discussion for another time.
The IF's responsibility, or the Labour or Conservative, to do that before that person is elected, or is it? It's just a question I have, I suppose.
There are legal.
Do you mind if I go first, please? So I've do a lot of safeguarding, and I'm obviously lead safeguarding. I'm afraid I disagree with your policy. I think every single person should be a base. I think people don't understand the difference between basic DBSs and enhanced DBSs. So everybody should have a basic DBS. Every single person. So councillors, staff, you should all be basic DBS checked. Anybody that volunteers at Fairfroom, you have a basic DBS. You do that before they start their job. They start their role. I've come across some quite nasty people who are very manipulative and can really make their way into, if you have someone, that's representing the town council, they might just volunteer for one day at events. They could use that position because people could see that, children could see that person. Oh yeah, they've got a tabard, they're in a position of authority. That could be manipulated by people. And you've got to, I know obviously a basic DBS only gives a certain amount of information, but you've got to cover yourselves. And actually, if someone has a criminal record, that doesn't mean they can't volunteer or they can't work for somewhere, but that's got to be disclosed. Also, people do work and volunteer with a criminal record. That depends what it is, but you've got to mitigate that risk.
It might be something that's a responsibility for Independence for Frome rather than Frome Town Council, that we are DBS checked before we're allowed to stand for Independence for Frome.
But I also know, there are people volunteering who haven't had a DBS check for Frome Town Council, and in the past, and actually one of the teachers who wasn't DBS checked, part of the ESOL teachers. That's just, they're being in contact with vulnerable people as well. So,
Can I just say, because I don't disagree on the wider thing, I just want to sort of clarify a couple of things. I think you're right that there is what is if and what is, or what is the responsibility of individual councils. So first of all, there are rules around who can stand as a councillor. It's without, and I obviously looked at them fairly recently, but it's a criminal record within the last 5 years or something, and you do have to sort of sign a declaration. That's not the same as a DBS check. I'm just saying that there are, and that is, but also you can be, unless you are, you can only be made to not be a councillor if you're disbarred, like if you get a criminal conviction, basically. So that's like a Somerset monitoring officer. So there is something there that we need to look at as separate to so I'm aware pre-election period, I don't want to mention parties, something that is responsibility of councillors. I was just want to say your other point about lone workers is that was looked at, and we do now have the safety alarms for any individual member of staff going into someone's home. There are alarms that connect to people's mobile phones, so you have a thing. That's different to DBS. I'm not going into that. I'm just saying that specific concern around the safety of our staff going into buildings. But I think there's something that can be, I think this can kind of probably be brought into that broader look that we're talking about in terms of the safety concerns, both I guess in terms of other people safeguarding and in terms of us have been raised because of the town hall. So I think maybe we need to add the DBS side of things into this look that is, I think, coming to October or November's operations and assets. It's penciled in at the moment to come to the next operations and assets meeting to have a look at all of this stuff, and let's have a proper look at it. And because I think I feel a little bit like there's stuff going, but I kind of want to kind of get the facts right and get it all written out.
Volunteers, it's only like £21 if you volunteer, and it lasts for 3 years, and you can use it across now, obviously, the central system, so you don't have to have one. And you can go join the online update service. But actually, you can't apply to have an enhanced DBS unless you are working supervising children only, certain groups. You wouldn't even be able to apply for that.
Mark.
And your point about, you mentioned but any political party that is going to stand a councillor should do some sort of due diligence into their candidates. And we've seen a lot of major parties fall over because of that and get caught out later on. Question for you, Laura. I'm not trying to catch you out, but do you know who amongst the councillors and the staff who actually is? I mean, do we have a register? I mean, I am because of working with Lenka at Fairfroom. I've done it, and I know other people have got it as well. But does the council know who you have a register?
I keep a record of all the applications that we've made. Obviously, the applications we've made as Frome Town Council, so obviously yours wouldn't have been, our sort of organisation wouldn't be on it. But if you can let me know if you have a DBS, at least I can make a note of that. We also make a point of anyone that I have signed up, basic you can't sign up to the update service, but standard or enhanced, whether they're a volunteer, staff member or councillor, I always make a point of signing them up to the update service. DBSs don't necessarily have an expiry date on them, and equally they're only really as good as the day that they are applied for. However, putting it through the update service means there's an annual check against that person, so if anything happened in the meantime there would be a flag against them. They're also, like Lenka was saying, they're something other organisations can check on and see that you have a current and valid DBS check. So I think that's another sort of layer of using DBS to their usefulness, basically.
Be helpful as an action from this meeting to send a round robin, all councillors or staff, are you DBS? It's not trying to catch anybody out. Just say, so you could keep a register of those of us who have it, and possibly with an expiry date, so that the council has a corporate knowledge of those who are checked.
So what do you mean, send a list of councillors so they know who?
To your colleagues and our councillors saying, do you have a DBS, yes or no? If yes, when does it expire? Just a simple one-liner, and no stigma if you don't have it. But the council will then have a picture of, so if you are allocating staff to a particular event or want councillors to volunteer for it, you know who might be appropriate.
Yep, no, that's a very good point, yep. Philip?
Matt, the last thing I'll mention on this, it surprises me that we're even having the discussion, because the default should be safeguarding. The default should be, as Lenka says, everybody is checked. It shouldn't be, well, possibly it's needed there, but it might not be needed there. I don't think it's an if issue or a Frome Town Council issue. If it's an if issue, it's for if. Once you belong to an organisation, it should be standard. Safeguarding should be standard across. My concern...
I don't think we can impose it on people. Yeah, I don't think Frome Town Council could impose it.
There are lots of councils that do.
Okay, can I just, when I was looking after HR more than I am now, we used to have our DBS done by Spark volunteers, and they would refuse to do DBS checks if they didn't feel the job description warranted it. So that's where we followed that rule. If we've got to change that now, that's fine, but that was the rule on Spark.
But that's only enhanced because of the job you're doing. But if you do basic, so it could be done online by the person, you actually get the result within 2 hours.
Okay, Lenka, I'm not sure that's the case. I'm sure Spark turned us down on some occasions, but that's the past, and that's where our policy originated. We're very happy to review it, and I think it's a good idea to review it. I have no problem with that.
I would agree with Sarah, and I think there's also, I hate to bring it back to this, but there's an administration and time and capacity level at this. At the moment, I'm the only person in this organisation that makes DBS applications. If you think about every member of staff, every councillor, every volunteer, every ESOL volunteer, it's quite, and I'm not saying that's not a reason to do it, I just want that as a note.
You can put the onus on the person to do it.
Basic, yes, you can, yeah.
But you only need basic. It's only if you're supervising children. So I have it because I'm alone with people under 18. I don't think anyone would be able to get an enhanced because none of you are going to be.
No, and there's only been a few situations or roles that we've made an enhanced DBS application.
So you could say to all the councillors, they're all volunteers. You just go online. They can do it themselves. You can actually send a payment link to Freedom Town Council, or they can pay for it themselves. It's £21 each. That's it.
Can I just say, I think I just feel a bit uncomfortable here because I think we just need to have a proper look at this. Like, I think we have heard from Philip and from Lenka that we need to have a proper look at this as a policy, but it's kind of becoming a bit and I'm not saying, because obviously you deal with this all the time, we just need to have a proper look at it and get all the facts straight and understand what we need to do, what we can do, what the costs are. Let's just have a proper look at it at next committee meeting, because otherwise we're just going to continue and it's getting a bit like, I don't know what's true and what's not now. So can we just make sure we get our facts straight for the next meeting and look at it as a policy?
I really agree, because what we're hearing is opinions, and what you don't know is what we're allowed to enforce, and I think that's really crucial to this. We might have a policy that we want to do it, but from my experience, I was having a conversation with clerks recently where a chair of a finance committee wanted to insist that their responsible finance officer had a DBS check, and they weren't allowed to. It's true.
Again, that's here's it. Let's just establish the facts properly.
But I think it's great this
Councillors
being
who are
raised now.
elected officials, I don't think you can enforce it. You
Cool.
can't
I
not
think
with
it's-
elected officials.
I think it's great that it's been raised, and I think it would be really good to look at the wording and bring it maybe back to this committee when we've got something a bit clearer. And I think we would be much more likely to bring it up at if now we've brought it up to this level. And I just think that I think it's really important, but we need to get it straight what the council has the capacity to do, and what they're bound to do, and what
What they can do. Good, right. We will have an in-depth discussion about this when we've done some checking. I believe, Fiona.
Can we end on a nicer note? I just wanted to, in my role as chair of the council, we found out that Hannah Watts had a little baby boy, George, yesterday. So I just wanted to send Pardon? Oh, last week. Anyway, send congratulations to Hannah and Brett and George and say that I hope they're all doing very well and looking forward to meeting him.
Thank you very much. Next meeting is Wednesday, the 26th of November. Blimey. See you all then, if not before. Thank you very much.